Now, the way police are recruited in England and Wales is to undergo a major shake-up, with schemes to fast-track new recruits to inspector level and plans to allow people from outside the police force to join as superintendents with just 15 months of training. And for the first time, foreign police chiefs will be able to run British forces.
Stand fast!
Of the big public services, the police are unusual. They all start here, training and passing out as new police constables. They work their way up here on the beat. And some may end up here as senior officers, even running an entire force. Usually it's a 30-year career, but today's proposals would speed up the process and attract a new type of recruit.
People who are interested in policing, people who might have wanted to join before but have been prevented from doing so by the system we operate, will now be able to do it. And I think this will lead to an even better police force in the future.
Those people might be successful mid-career candidates from perhaps the military or business. They'll either go straight in as superintendents with special training or offered a fast track from constable to inspector. The government's considering options. Good police work requires specialist training like this, but also experience in the ways of the policing world. So this is the concern.
You can have the training, you can read the books, you can observe other people, but when you come to critical decisions, at some stage you have to also rely on your experience and instinct, and you cannot get that experience and instinct in a 15-month classroom environment.
Ministers say yes, senior officers have to be able to command a major operation like this one, but good day-to-day management skills are also needed, and outsiders might provide them. The door's also being opened to senior police from abroad, such as former LA Chief Bill Bratton, to run British forces. Some with the power to hire and fire chief constables welcome the idea.
I'm lucky if I get 4, 5 applicants for a really top job paying over £100,000. And that's not because they're not good people, they are, but there aren't enough of them.
A concern echoed by the government, but rejected by many police officers who say the expertise can be found from within their ranks. Tom Simons, BBC News.
Well, joining us to discuss the merits of these planned reforms are Colin Rogers, Professor of Police Sciences at Glamorgan University, spent 30 years with South Wales Police, and in our Leeds studio we're joined by Mike Pannett, author and policeman with more than 20 years service. Colin Rogers, let's start with you if we can. Do you welcome these changes?
I think we have to put this into context first of all. The police service in this country is undergoing a massive change, not just in this area, but in terms of accountability and elsewhere. And I see these changes as part of the broader changes for policing. I think that there is some merit in this kind of approach. What we're not talking about the removal of all senior police officers and replacing them immediately with people from outside the service. I think there is merit in this approach, and I think it needs to be reasonably discussed.
Mike Pannett, do you go along with that?
Well, unfortunately, I don't. Look, the police are going through great reform, and at the moment, there's a real serious issue with morale within the police service nationally. And the reason I say that is because right at this very moment in time, we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of very well educated to degree standard right across the board who have passed their sergeant's exams, inspector's exams, and they're all waiting for promotion, and some of those officers could be waiting years. And you know, to suddenly bring in somebody, especially at the rank of superintendent, it takes years and years to gain experience. Those very officers, after spending 15 months in a classroom, suddenly find themselves confronted with a riot situation, a very high adrenaline, fast-moving situation, which it requires a lot of experience, and that experience is built up over time. And I believe this is totally undermining our entire police service as it stands, to totally disregard those very officers that are in. And yet we're hearing now we might bring in chief officers from right across the world. Well, let me tell you, our police service is the finest police service in the world. Everybody in the world looks at us as to how we police, so why are we thinking about bringing them in from outside?
Colin Rogers, that's a very different point of view. Why don't you tell Mike Pannett why he's wrong and you're right?
Well, the thing is this, that there is a lot of change, morale is low, but the police are there as a service to the public. And let's not forget that they serve a community, they serve our communities. And so far the debate has been very police-centric. It's all about the poor old police service, it's all about what will happen within the service, etc., etc. Frankly, if I'm a member of the public, as long as I get an efficient, effective and good service, I'm not really concerned that much if they were promoted through the ranks or if they've come in from a different environment. I think it's useful to bring people into a senior officer level who can bring different experiences, different perspectives, different problem solving, different appreciations, and also able to make informed decisions without possibly having cultural baggage attached to those decision making.
Now, Mikey's right, isn't it? It feels like a closed shop to the rest of us.
Look, it's not a closed shop, but what we've got to bear in mind, and I'm sure the British public listening will want the very best police service, because we don't want to be putting public at risk here. Now, I can tell you absolutely, it does take time to understand what it's like to go to a domestic incident, what it's like to be confronted with a knife-wielding person who's high on drugs. These are all situations that you find yourself in, and you have to deal with them. And to me, there is systems in place within the policing to fast-track and identify high-potential officers already, and they can move through the ranks very quickly. But as a supervisor or somebody in leadership, the key thing to me is, if you're going to ask somebody to do something and you've got no experience what you're asking to do, or you've never done it before, or you're not willing to do that, then that gives me great concern. You cannot rush these things. I think the reform is looking for quick fixes. Policing is a very unique role, and our police service, like I've said, is the finest in the world, and the reform, there's certain areas which need to be reformed, we all know about that, but this is very quickly and one step too far, I think, for the entire policing family to stomach.
Colin Rogers, I can see you shaking your head there.
Well, the problem is this. I was a police officer 30 years, so I do have some knowledge of it. There is a belief amongst some that the police have access to some mystical knowledge and power that only they are allowed to access. Those police officers who deal with incidents, as we mentioned there, were trained individuals. They were not born police officers. They were trained into that role. Now, I cannot see why senior officers at a particular level cannot come into the police service and be trained into that role. Senior police officers, when they're dealing with serious incidents, do not act alone. They have people such as TAC advisors, other experts with them, surrounding them when they're dealing with these issues. So it's not a case of someone who is untrained or can't make decisions or won't listen to advice coming in to make those decisions. And I think we have to be realistic about that and understand this.
Colin Rogers, Mike Pannett, I don't think we're going to get to agreement and common ground, but thank you both for coming on and putting forward your opinions.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's all about experience.